Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Red Door Yoga mini Sutra series. It's a pleasure to have you all here. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about suffering and what we're banking it for. So, you may have had experiences in the past where you're watching someone that you know and you're watching them suffer through an experience, and you think to yourself, why are they doing this? Why don't they get out from this situation? Why don't they stop the suffering? And the person continues to do what they're doing, and they're continuing to suffer, and drives you a little nuts, right? I think everybody's had that experience. And what you're not realizing is that what's actually going on is they haven't suffered enough. But you are suffering enough. Like at that point in time of suffering, you're suffering watching them going through it. And you go, if I was at this point of suffering, I'm at this point of suffering and I want out, right? This would be my point where I'd go, I need to change something. But they're not there yet. And that's because their threshold of suffering with this specific experience is actually higher than yours. Now, what's interesting is that very often when we're watching somebody suffer and they're not getting out, besides becoming frustrated, we try to sometimes save them from that suffering. We go, let me try to get this person out of it because they're not extricating themselves. And we've got to understand actually that we're doing them a disservice when we do that, because the impetus for change needs to actually come from the person who's suffering, needs to come from ourselves. And so they actually need to kind of reach their threshold in order for them to notice and learn, in order for them to gain the wisdom and gain the impetus from within to make a change. If you try to extricate them from the situation, it usually circumvents their learning. And that's what I mean by it's a disservice to them. They actually haven't learned the lesson that the experience is there to teach them. You're learning a lesson. It's your lesson that's on this side, but it's their lesson on the other side, and their lesson has a different threshold. That's important to understand. Okay? Now, I mentioned about banking suffering. And the analogy I want to kind of leave you with here is the idea of, if you're going to buy a car, and so you decide, this car, I guess it's a used car because I don't know a car that costs $5,000. So you're going to buy this car and it costs $5,000, and you start banking money. You start saving and saving and saving. And then when you reach $5,000, it's a moment of celebration because now you can purchase that car. We do the same thing with suffering. Each and every one of us in our experiences, we're banking suffering. So our suffering, just like, the money in the bank is going up, our suffering through an experience is increasing so long as we're staying in that experience. And it will reach a threshold point where we can now go, there it is. I've banked enough suffering with this experience. Now I get to purchase something with that suffering. And what we purchased, like we took the $5,000 and we purchased a car. What we're purchasing with that suffering is wisdom. Okay. And what I want to point out here, when I had said earlier that, your threshold for suffering and their threshold for suffering is different. What's interesting when we start looking at this analogy is that the same car, for each person, they actually pay different amounts for it. Okay, one person pays $5,000, one person banks $7,000, one person banks $15,000. It's the same car they're going to buy, right? So the same wisdom costs different amounts of suffering for different people because of their stuff, because of what it is that is holding them there, what the patterns that they carry, etc. So it's important for us to understand that no one can buy the wisdom until they actually bank enough of their threshold. Okay, I hope that's helpful, everyone. And, please do like the post, comment, share it. If you're viewing it on Facebook, if you're viewing it on YouTube, etc., I check the comments. And if you've got questions, please do ask them. Questions help me know how to serve you better. Okay, so I'm here for you. Ask away. All right. Thank you for joining me, everyone. And I look forward to seeing you again online very soon. Namaste.